Hello and salutations to all freedom-loving friends. Well, next Monday, January 20th, a new era is about to start. The great President Trump will be swearing in, and day one, a lot of good stuff will start. And this video is going to be obviously, you can tell from the image behind me, is going to be focusing on Second Amendment, gun rights, and gun control. There are a lot of good, already, a lot of good achievements, success stories so far have been accomplished in past. And again, day one, next Monday, January 20th, after great President Trump swears in and starts his administration, a whole lot more will be coming in the full support of Second Amendment rights, guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America. The year 2020, if you compare this to year 2020, it is as a huge contrast as stark as black and white. I just want to mention just a few success stories, and like I said, these are only the beginning. A new bill has been proposed, and that is for the abolishment of ATF. I remember. I mean, when you say ATF, a lot of negative connotations, right, was coming to my mind. So I'm going to repeat this. ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. There is a proposal for elimination and abolishment of ATF. And the other one is NFA, the abolishment of NFA, National Firearms Act, which was nothing, has been nothing other than a whole lot of the litany of limitations and restrictions on the rights, on the constitutional rights of the law-abiding American citizens for bearing arms. In addition to those, there is a support for hearing aid. I'm sorry, not hearing aid. The hearing protection. That is obviously dealing with suppressors, or otherwise known as the term silencers. I personally prefer the term suppressor as it is the correct technical name. The name silencer has been popularized by Hollywood, but the actual term is suppressor. And that is also going to be a lot of support for elimination of the restrictions and limitations on the purchase and ownership and possession of suppressors. And the fourth one is, and it's also huge, big one, and we've been talking about it, for years, is the national CCW reciprocity, the concealed carry reciprocity. So I was just talking about it with a friend today. I have my Minnesota issued gun CCW permit, and I don't know exact number of states with the reciprocity, but other than those states, example, that was several years ago. I went to Illinois, Chicago, and normally I wasn't allowed to, carry a gun either on my person or in my car. And with this, hopefully, the National Reciprocity Act, which has been recently proposed to the Congress, we're going to be eliminating and destroying another huge roadblock, which is standing on the way that law-abiding American citizens can exercise their constitutionally guaranteed and protected rights. So again, those four are major accomplishments. They're about to be approved, or most likely will be approved in relatively decent amount of time. With the Congress being Republican controlled, with the Senate being Republican controlled, And more equally importantly, the cabinet, the Trump's cabinet, is now occupied by very like-minded people who are equally excited and energetic to destroy all these unconstitutional attacks uh, in the name of gun control, which was masqueraded as if it's a battle to reduce crime with firearms. There is practically unlimited amount of serious academic statistical data supporting the fact without any doubt that the by controlling guns, the gun ownership, and by elimination of the gun rights, that will impact the law-abiding citizens, and it will have zero impact on criminals, as by definition criminals do not care about what the law says, and they will go their ways no matter what the law says. And we also, again, unlimited amount of support, the data support, the statistical support, that the anywhere, any state or any city, any region that where people have more freedom to exercise their constitutionally guaranteed and protected rights of gun ownership, the crime rates, without any kind of exception, went down. As opposed to places like Chicago, New York City, Denver, Colorado, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, where the draconian anti-gun laws are in force. The crime rate has been going up and is unstoppable. So, again, I'm going to have to go ahead and resort to the same old saying. There is only one way to stop the bad guy with a gun, and that is a good guy with a gun. However much those liberals, those so-called intelligent and sophisticated ways try to make this statement dumb and stupid, are themselves hopelessly dumbasses. And once the great President Trump swears in, Monday, January 20th, this upcoming Monday, day one, a lot of work has been planned and will be deployed to basically maintain and guarantee and improve the citizens, the law-abiding citizens' rights to exercise their constitutionally guaranteed rights of bearing firearms. When you compare this situation to 2020, just go back, January 2020, it cannot be any more different. So there was incredible amount of restrictions that they've been trying to come up with, that they've been trying to eliminate by using even the most ridiculous arguments to eliminate or reduce or minimize the rights of the people for self-protection. And we're going to see a whole lot more developments. And one more thing I want to mention that's really interesting. We all know that gun sales have been going up, and going up almost exponentially. And that's a very good thing. And when you look at the data, there is a very interesting development taking place. And that is gun purchases by very, very unlikely group of people. Very unlikely demographics. Excuse me. And that is people who have been very verbal against gun ownership, they are also buying a lot of guns. Those people are buying their guns. They're not advertising. They're not showing what they bought, what they have on YouTube channels. They're not making any videos. They're not advertising that they bought a gun. They're not showing to friends. They're hiding because they're still trying to kind of manage any kind of a backlash from within their communities, the liberal and democratic communities. Yet, the very fact that those people who themselves are diehard, diehard, the blues of blue, liberals and Democrats, are buying guns. That alone shows something. Only maybe a year or two ago, they were, extremely and actively against any kind of gun ownership idea. The slightest amount of idea about the gun ownership for these people were just simply impossible and repugnant and simply it was incredibly wrong, repulsive idea. Those people are buying guns now. So that is something to stop and consider and kind of ponder about and see what's going on. And again, this is as part of the total increase in the total gun purchases. By all demographics, there is no limitations. All demographic groups, the white Americans, minorities, Asian Americans, Latinos, everybody, whether all walks of lives, total gun purchases have been on the rise and on the rise significantly. Folks, my belief is when you look at overall what's going on about the overall in general liberal policies, very liberal policies, we're seeing a huge shift towards just the opposite direction, not only in the United States, but also in the Western Europe. That is not and that should not be a coincidence. One thing that I want to share with you, one example, and that example is, although not related to gun rights, that is about the wildfires in Los Angeles. And let me just kind of just kind of tell you, share with you what I learned, and I just want to share this with you because it was extremely frustrating to learn about that. There was 3 copters came from Oregon to, support the firefighting effort in Los Angeles. When those copters came, they landed, whatever the airport they landed, they were held for hours, maybe more than a day, while the houses were on fire, and they had to be immediately gone to be deployed in that area to help facilitate the efforts, the firefighting efforts. They were held at that airport. The reason why that they were being held was this: they had to make sure that those copters that came from state of Oregon were complying with the Clean Air Act and emission control regulations of the state of California. I repeat, they were held to make sure that those helicopters were complying with the Clean Air Act of the state of California. While those houses were on fire, they were worrying about those details. This is nothing but another form of being a murderer. This is a crime against humanity. Yet, liberal and democratic establishment of the state of California facilitated this act. Once the wildfires are over, the huge, probably the greatest investigation, probably the biggest investigation of the century will start. And behind that, I have no problems right now sharing with you to claim that the majority of the reasons, whatever, all the factors, all the variables, all the reasons, most of them are basically all rolling up to one and only one thing. That is nothing other than the inadequacy of liberal and democratic establishment of the state of California. Right now, the last figures that I learned was over 275 billion, letter B, billion dollars of damage. Right now, a whole lot more than that. And that doesn't even include, going forward, all the damages, the compensations that should have been paid to people who lost their houses and everything. So 275 billion, I'm going to claim that this number is now exceeding, probably close or exceeding $300 billion. A lot of many other nations in the world, this is their GDP. So many countries have a lot less GDP, annual GDP, than this number. Some countries that are part of the G20, their GDP is about like a twice of this number. I'm just, uttering this truth, this fact, just to kind of give some kind of perspective of the dimensions of the damage. The largest ever wildfire in the history of the California, in the history of this nation, and the dollar amount of damage is also congruent with that, as it is the biggest one. And those who are responsible are none other than the group of people that I just mentioned before. And that copter example I gave you and I shared with you, I think is extremely strong example that should stir any sane person's blood. But again, I always fail to understand the sick mindset of extreme liberals, and for as long as they are in power, they bring nothing but disaster. So, day one, January 20th, the new administration is going to be fully responsible with repairing the damage that they've caused the last 4 years, which is obviously the number one is 13 million. The official number, I think, is about 11 million, and I'm going to stick to that number. 11 million undocumented illegal immigrants and their damage that caused so far. That's why right now Lincoln Riley law have been passed by Congress. Actually, have been approved by representatives, the House of Representatives, and presented to the Senate, and it's almost certain that it will be approved by the Senate as well. So we're seeing nothing but, it's almost no regard for the damage. That was stemming from I'm going to use the best way, the terminology I'm going to use here is the utter inadequacy. Unless there is more serious reasons, if there is, they should have been classified as treasonous by the liberal democratic establishment, which is none other than whoever that I consider them as puppets of the globalist, elitist establishment to create the utter chaos just so they can come back and tell the people, are you miserable enough? Yes, you are, right? Then let us fix it. So these are the developments, especially in terms of gun control and gun rights, and the support and protection of the Second Amendment. With the new president, Second Amendment rights will be in an entirely new phase. And I'm so excited to see this. That's why I want to share this video with you, share my thoughts and emotions with you. Thank you very much. I appreciate for your time, for listening to me. Stay safe.